Welcome to the best site for learning German. We upload videos every day. Let's go.
Have you ever tried to speak German and felt like you were talking backwards? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. But what if I told you all that confusion, all that chaos, it all boils down to one single, super simple rule? Well, today we are cracking that code. So, let's just jump right into that whole backwards feeling. See, for us English speakers, our brains are just, well, they're hardwired for a certain word order. So when we look at a German sentence, it can honestly feel like someone just threw all the words into a blender. Let's take a look at why that is. Okay, look at this. If you try to translate directly from English, word for word, you get nonsense. In English, we'd say, today I go to the cinema, right? The subject I comes right before the verb go. But check out the correct German. Heute gehe ich. Whoa, the verb gehe has literally jumped in front of the subject ich. It feels totally wrong, but I promise you this isn't random. There's a system here.
So, what on earth is this system? What's the secret key that suddenly makes all of this make perfect sense? Well, it's this one single principle that once you really get it, really get it, everything else just clicks into place. All right, here it is, the big secret. It's called the V2 rule, and that just stands for verb second rule. And listen, this is not just some friendly guideline. This is the unbreakable golden rule for pretty much every normal statement you are ever going to make in German.
And here it is in all its glory. In a standard German sentence, the main verb, the one that changes to match the subject, like I go versus he goes, is always the second element. I want you to think of the verb as the sun in our little sentence solar system. It is locked in place, and all the other words, the other planets, they have to orbit around it. But, and this is a big but, here is the number one trap that learners fall into. We hear second position, and we automatically think second word. And that is not quite right. See, in German grammar, a position isn't just one word. It's an entire idea, a whole chunk of information.
Let's break this down. Ich. That's easy, right? One word, one position. But look at der große Bus. That's three words. But grammatically, it's treated as one single element, the subject. And it can get way crazier. Am Ende eines langen stressigen Tages. That's a huge phrase, but grammatically speaking, it's just one chunk taking up that single first position.
And this shows it perfectly. The entire phrase der große Bus is the first element, position one. So what absolutely has to come next? The verb. And there it is, fährt, sitting perfectly in position two. It doesn't matter that it's the fourth word in the sentence, it's the second idea. That's the key. Okay, so what happens when we want to start a sentence with something that isn't the subject? This is what leads to that classic subject-verb swap that trips up so many people. But it's not a new rule at all. It's just our V2 rule doing its thing. Think about it like this. The verb is completely locked in position two. It cannot move, period. So if you decide you want to start your sentence with something else, for emphasis, like heute, well, that word now owns position one. So what has to come next? The verb. And since the verb is now in position two, where does the subject go? It has no choice but to slide in right after it. It's not a random swap, it's a totally logical shuffle. Okay, so you're getting the hang of the V2 rule. Awesome. But then you see those sentences that have two verbs, and one of them is just banished to the very end of the sentence. What's that about? Well, this is where our V2 rule teams up with another cool concept to create the famous German verb sandwich. The official name for this is the Satzklammer, or sentence bracket, but honestly, I just like to call it the verb sandwich. Think of it this way. The conjugated verb is your first slice of bread and is always in position two. The other part of the verb is the second slice of bread, and it goes all the way to the end. And everything else in the sentence, that's just the delicious filling squished in the middle. And you see this structure absolutely everywhere, with modal verbs like muss. The other verb, putzen, goes to the end. When you're talking in the past tense, the helping verb habe is in position two, and the past participle gegessen is at the end. And of course, with Germany's famous separable verbs, the main part, fährt, is in P2, while its little prefix ab gets kicked all the way to the end. So, does this amazing V2 rule ever actually break? In a main statement, no. But what about when you're asking questions or using other kinds of clauses? Well, they don't really break the rules so much as they follow their own set of equally consistent, equally logical rules. So,
Our standard statement follows the V2 rule perfectly. Ich lerne Deutsch. Easy. But if you want to ask a yes-no question, you just pop the verb into position 1. Lernst du Deutsch? And for questions that start with a W word, like wann, that word takes position 1, and our trusty verb snaps right back into position 2 where it belongs. The big exception is independent clauses, the ones that start with words like weil or das. In those, the verb gets booted all the way to the very end.
So, if you remember one thing, let it be this. The verb is your anchor. In any main German sentence, your job is to find your verb, lock it into position 2, and then build everything else around it. The moment you master that one idea, the language stops feeling so random and you start to see its incredible inner logic. Now you know the secret. Go build a sentence.
Here are some tips that will help you improve your German fluency incredibly. And remember, new videos every day.
All right, let's talk about getting fluent in German. It can feel like this huge, impossible mountain to climb, right? But trust me, with the right roadmap, you can absolutely get to the top.
So first things first, we've got to talk about German's reputation. You know the one, that it's this super difficult, complicated language full of ridiculously long words and crazy grammar. It's enough to scare anyone off before they even start. But honestly, that's mostly a myth. German is actually a surprisingly logical language. And here's the best part. It's a Germanic language, just like English. They're basically cousins. You're gonna find thousands of words that are super similar, like house for house, Freund for friend, and book for book. You're not starting from zero. You've already got a massive head start.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start by looking at why German seems hard, then we'll lay down a solid foundation, build up those core skills, get you into what I call the immersion engine, talk about turning practice into fluency, and finally look at how to play the long game.
First up, let's understand the challenge. By facing what makes German tricky right from the start, we can prepare for these hurdles instead of letting them trip us up down the road.
The main hurdles are usually the noun genders. Remembering if a word is masculine, feminine, or neutral. Then you've got those famously long compound words, and of course a few unique sounds we just don't have in English. It might seem like a lot, but believe me, there's a system to all of it.
Okay, now let's get to laying the foundation. Getting these first steps right is absolutely key to your long-term success.
Your first steps need to be clear and doable. Start with what they call SMART goals. That just means they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So instead of a vague goal like, I want to learn German, you'd aim for something like, I'm going to pass the A1 exam in 6 months. See the difference? From there, just focus on mastering the alphabet, getting the basic pronunciation down, and learning those essential phrases you'll need every day.
Now, here's a huge tip. Mastering just a few unique sounds can totally transform your accent. We're talking about the umlauts, e, ö, and ü, and that funny-looking ps symbol, the z. Getting these right early on is a real game changer. It'll make you sound so much more natural and save you a whole lot of frustration.
With that solid foundation in place, now we can start building the structure of the language. This section is all about the nuts and bolts, grammar and vocabulary.
Let's tackle German's most famous feature, grammatical gender. Yep, every single noun has a gender, and you can tell what it is by its article. Der for masculine, die for feminine, and das for neutral. This is a core rule you just have to embrace from day one.
And this slide shows the absolute best way to learn vocabulary. Don't just learn Stuhl means chair, you have to learn der Stuhl. Always learn the noun and its article together, like they're a single unit. It will save you so many headaches later on, I promise.
Here is a fantastic shortcut to speaking faster, learning these 7 modal verbs. Things like können for can and wollen for want. Why is this such a game changer? Because when you use one, it pushes the other verb to the very end of the sentence in its simple infinitive form. This totally simplifies your sentence structure and lets you express complex ideas without having to memorize tons of different conjugations.
Okay, let's shift gears now from just studying German to actually living it. This is all about making the language a natural part of your world.
So how do you actually do it? Well, change your phone's language to German, listen to German podcasts on your commute, read simple books that are designed for learners like Café in Berlin, or watch some incredible German films like Das Leben der anderen. Just immerse yourself in the language.
So the most important thing here is to learn like a child does. Just think about it. They listen, they play, and they are not afraid to make mistakes. The goal is to get your message across, so focus on communication, not on perfection.
Now it's time to activate everything you've learned. This is about turning that passive knowledge you have stored in your brain into the active, real-world skill of speaking.
Every expert starts out as a beginner. Language blogger Dr. Popkins shared that just 6 weeks into his studies, a German friend bluntly told him his German was, well, terrible. It's a really relatable reminder that the beginning is often pretty rough, but it's a totally necessary part of the process.
A lot of learners, Dr. Popkins included, hit something called the upper intermediate plateau. It's that super frustrating stage where you know all the basic grammar and vocabulary, but you just feel stuck. Your progress seems to slow to a crawl. And that's because the next steps involve more nuanced language and less common structures. The only way to break through it is consistent, deliberate speaking practice.
Looking for a more concrete goal? While fluency is really complex, a common benchmark people use is knowing around 10,000 words. This gives you a tangible, long-term target for building up your vocabulary.
And for our final section, let's set some realistic expectations. Achieving fluency is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. It requires patience and a whole lot of consistency.
So, what does that marathon look like? With consistent effort, you can probably handle daily conversations and small talk in about 6 months. But reaching a professional working level of fluency, that's more likely to take 2 to 3 years.
And remember, fluency isn't some permanent state that you achieve and then you're done. It needs maintenance. It's a classic use it or lose it situation. But the good news is, once you've reached a high level, those skills can be reactivated really quickly, even after a long break.
So you have the roadmap. You know the challenges, you know the foundations, and you know the long-term strategies. The only question left is, where will your German journey take you?
Subscribe and let's reach our goals together. Remember, nothing comes without effort. See you tomorrow.